we are in a world that is always talking. But when you sit back and listen, it ends up changing the dynamic. Because as a leader, your job and accountability is to make the best decision, not for you, but for the people you lead. How can the heck you make a good decision if you don't know who you're leading and how you make them flourish and thrive? So I think listening is probably one of the most undervalued leadership skills.
Welcome back to the TrustBuilt Podcast. I'm your host, Alan Bennett, and today's guest, we've got a great guest today. I'm excited about this. We've got Sam Russell with Buttered Biscuit, and Sam is in the food service. I spent 20 years in the food service, so we've got this common bond, and I've been looking forward to this. So welcome to the show, Sam.
Thank you, Alan. I really appreciate it. I think, as you know, food business tends to put gray hairs on your face and on your head, and so it's either wisdom or stress, one of those two, for sure. But thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. You know, the thing that, of course, I'm a breakfast guy. And I know that people that are watching or listening to this, everybody eats breakfast at some point. Some people claim they're not breakfast people, but when they do, they want a good one, right? So what I'd like to do is, your background was not food service, right? Before you started Buttered Biscuit, kind of share us the story. I'm curious as to how did this even happen?
Yeah. For sure. Well, Alan, I'd love to share that. So really, this all starts, you can go with my title, right, which is co-founder. And that allows me the opportunity to talk about the real hero of this story, which is my wife. This brand is still a 51% owned female business. It's her idea. I can't take credit for it. I'm the supportive husband and minority shareholder in this proposition. But really, she saw a need in Bentonville to create just exactly what you said, just an amazing handcrafted breakfast made from scratch for our community. In fact, the first menu that we created, which is largely intact, was actually generated by asking our friends and just people in the community, what do you want on a breakfast menu? What do you expect to see? Do you want, do you want a breakfast burrito? Do you want, omelets or Benedicts? And then let us go out and find a way to source it from local farmers and local produce companies, partner with local businesses to make this come to life. So it was really her ambition and desire to see this kind of flourish. And then I did, like you mentioned, I had 11 years background in corporate America. That's what brought us here to Arkansas originally. And it was a fun opportunity to say, all right, Anna, you have this amazing idea. Let's go ahead and craft it, hone it, make sure that it's actually durable. And it's transferable into both community, and we can make some money at it. So I tend to be the, let's go carefully. She tends to jump and ask questions later. So it's a good dual partnership here. So that was the early impetus for the brand. Again, we can talk, but the business community of Arkansas is just thriving. There's a nimbleness, an inherent nimbleness, not only to the state, but specifically to Bentonville, where you have a lot of individuals who want to see things happen. They want to support people that are local entrepreneurs and really foster an amazing environment. And that's what we felt. So we felt an outpouring of support, helping us find real estate, helping us get connected with local contractors, and in really all of the different things that have to go into making an idea come to life. It really does take a community, and it takes a really visionary at the center, which is my wife. So yeah.
That story's fascinating. And I did the same thing in Little Rock. I opened a meat market up in 2000 because I couldn't find a good steak. Right.
Yeah.
So I've got, I get you. I totally get her, especially. But what I heard in your story is, this is the TrustBuilt Podcast, and you actually use the word connection, connected. And that is what I heard in the common theme of everything you just said. It was about connection. And so let's talk a little bit about that connection and local farmers, their community, and how you built this business, the success of Buttered Biscuit with connection. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, Alan, I think whether you talk about steak or whether you talk about biscuits, it comes down to food. We believe is one of the most intimate things that you can experience with another. It brings communities together around a table. It creates connection. It does create community, and it creates an environment to where ideas can be shared on an equal footing. if you think about a lecture stage or you think about a podium, you have one person presenting and a whole bunch of people receiving. When you think about a table, we're all at the same level. We all have the knees under the same table. We get to share something. And that idea of creation, trust, if you want to use that word, or connection, comes into every aspect of how a business is built. We start at the very foundation, which is honesty. If we're not willing to be truth-telling, reliable and trustworthy, not only with ourselves, telling ourselves the truth, telling others the truth, telling our staff the truth and being consistent with it and building a sense of reliability, how are we going to build a durable brand? So for example, these biscuits that we have sitting in front of us, I have no shame to talk about the ingredients that are in there. There's nothing fake. It's all real ingredients. This is where the whole impetus for handcrafted comes from, is because if I can't be trustworthy, reliable, and dependable on how I talk about the food, then how does that translate into the communication with our staff? How does that communicate at the table with our guests? And ultimately, our larger impact that we're excited to talk about, which is Project Biscuit, our charitable arm, because it all ties together. And we've seen just an unbelievable kind of marketplace affirmation that people want authenticity and they want people to be real. And that's what we've strived to accomplish.
Yeah, and you said the word consistency, and to me, consistency is the mother of all factors that impact trust, especially when it comes to making a biscuit. You don't want the people to come in and say, "Man, that was the best biscuit," and this next time they come in, it's something's wrong with the recipe, right? That you start losing trust in the consistency of the product. But you're talking a little bit more than just consistency of a product, a biscuit. You're talking about consistency of a business, right?
Yeah, Alan. So you have biscuits are made by people. People are all different. We can't. There's no way that two people are going to have the same story that allows, and the same background. So we're not machines. And this is something that, to get a consistent biscuit, I wish I could say that it's the same every store, every day, every way, all the time. But these biscuits are made from scratch. We start at 5:30 in the morning every single day across our entire company. We serve over 10,000 guests per week across our 6 locations. We have 200 employees, which means the amount of variation. Now, we've done a lot to standardize how the biscuit's made, what ingredients. Again, we start with flour, butter, baking powder, milk, a little bit of, just a little bit of, oh my word, why am I not? I'm blanking on it. Yeah, it's a little bit of salt. There you go. Thank you. I'm like, oh my word, this is so simple.
Oh, the chef came out.
Buttermilk. Just a touch of buttermilk, right? So you got 6 ingredients, but how those are incorporated, how the dough's handled, how the flour's handled, we have it all written out. It's all, or it's all in, and we spend a lot of time training it. But when you start to talk about the people and the stories and the backgrounds, this is where, as a leadership team, my wife and I sat down very early on within the first couple of weeks, and we realized that really what we want our company to stand on is culture. And that starts with honesty. I spoke about that. That's our number one culture key. Ownership is the second one. So ownership is about accountability, responsibility, and empowerment. So we want you to be accountable, responsible, and empowered to do the job that we want you to do, and ultimately that you want to do. You come to us as an employee and we want to say, hey, look, this is an agreement. I agree to pay you every 2 weeks and to help you get along in your career. You agree that you're going to uphold this role or task. And I want to hold you to a high standard, but I'm going to hold everyone to that high standard, not because it's for me, but it's actually better for you to start where you are now and move forward in your career. Third one is care, love and concern for others' well-being. This has been a bedrock. We understand that all of us have unique backgrounds and stories. We all come from different heritage. And it's something that makes us richer as we all come together. But to be truly caring for another person is to understand who they are, to listen to who they are, and to ultimately seek to figure out ways that we can serve and care for them. Third one is mastery. We want to pursue mastery in everything we do, which we consider like excellence. So excellence, mastery, it's a lot of similarities between those two words. But for us, excellence drives to mastery. Mastery is ultimately what we all should be striving for. We have a limited number of hours on this earth, whether we die, and depending on your worldview, what happens afterwards. But let's be good at it. Let's be really good at it. And then finally, positivity. So speech, image, and action. These 5 core values that we start with have allowed us to, from the very first conversation we have with someone as a potential employee, we say, hey, we're a culture-driven company. Here's our standard. We hire and fire based on these 5. We can't teach you these 5, but we can certainly help to hold you accountable to them. Employees understand what they're signing up for. It's almost like you come in and you want to be part of a team that has a mutual interest in upholding these 5 core values, because you see yourself as being worth upholding these 5 core values.
Yeah. So I'm hearing a story from the beginning of our conversation was about mission and vision.
Sure.
And now we've gone into core values. So this isn't just a poster that sits up on the wall for y'all, right?
Not at all. So this is a common dialogue often when we're handing out promotions. These core values are tied to the promotion. When we're giving corrective actions, these are tied to the corrective actions. Failure to, maintain a sense of ownership, right? So that's accountable, responsible, and empowered. So we've invested, that's the empowerment. You're accountable, meaning like we are giving you a specific opportunity to do this role. And you need to pursue excellence, which is mastery in this position. So we use it throughout our organization. We're willing to talk about it. We're very transparent with it. And this ultimately, we want to equally apply it to all employees. This doesn't, we always say that if the owner pays, you have to pay. This is talking about discounts. We don't take anything for free. My wife and I never have. And it sets a culture of trust within our company. It sets a culture of consistency. And ultimately that I'm not above the law. This brand is bigger than myself. It's bigger than my wife. And we have an opportunity to be the stewards of the brand, certainly. And we get to make a lot of decisions, but they impact everyone. We serve 10,000 guests and we have 200 employees. Like these are a lot of lives, a lot of families, a lot of aunts and uncles, a lot of children that we get to impact and, through the expression of how we do business every day. And if we're creating an inconsistent and chaotic environment, what people can't rely on the trust. The biscuits might be slightly different at every location. Or the butters, maybe there's a mistake in the recipe. Well, we make all these fresh, in-house, at every restaurant. We are not using commercial kitchens to do these things. We've gone the extra mile to invest into scratch cooking. And to us, that's significant because none of our competitors are doing this. But it breeds back to the entire idea and ethos of what we think is so significant about our brand, which is establishing a sense of authenticity, reliability, and trust.
Yeah, in this conversation that we're having, you've mentioned accountability a couple of times. Now, accountability scares some people, but the context in which you're presenting accountability is more about responsibility and purpose. That's what I'm hearing. It's that there's some purpose behind the accountability, and there's intention into how you're helping your employees grow. That's what I'm hearing. Is that something that you, when you have one-on-one, this is an industry that people just hire for boots on the ground, and you're not doing that, is what I'm hearing.
We aspire not to. I think there's a huge stereotype in this industry that certainly treats people as numbers. Within our first week of training, one of the conversations that's required by our managers to ask is, where do you see yourself in 5 years? This comes down to the third core value, which is care, love, and concern for others' well-being. This is not love and concern for my well-being. It's for others' well-being. This is actually getting to the whole idea of human flourishing. Human flourishing, I think, has been hotly debated out in the academic world of what does it mean? How can I command and control it from from like a society overlord? We take a very simple view of what human flourishing looks like. It basically kind of boils down, Alan, to what's best for you. Yeah. How do you define it? Now, everyone's vision and purpose for their life is different. And you know what? We respect that. But we want to do everything we can and everything in our resources to empower those individuals to achieve their highest level of excellence or mastery, which again is our fourth core value. So whether that be, I actually spoke with a new cook that we just had start at one of our restaurants yesterday. Well, he didn't start yesterday. He started 3 weeks ago, but I met him yesterday. And bright young kid, young 20s, right? He's a senior at U of A, taking a whole bunch of pre-med classes. His goal is to go be, a physician. He has a couple of specific interests. It depends on MCATs and obviously a lot of other things. But why is he a cook at Buttered Biscuit? Because he knows that it's a great work environment, pays bills, and he's going to have some fun and it's flexible hours. It's mornings that he's off. Like it allows him to get to where he really wants to go. You know what? We celebrate people like that, and we want to encourage them along their careers because we know this isn't their terminus. We don't want it to be. And in fact, if this was his terminus, I'd be doing him a disservice. So my goal is to help push him along, whether it be helping him be the best where he's currently at in his current role, or make introductions to other physicians that I know, talk about different things so that he can have through me, I have different access than he has. And access is often one of those things that disadvantages certain groups. And through our organization, we love to find ways to find out what their vision is for their life, help them thrive in human flourishing, and then leverage what we have at our fingertips to help people get to where they want to go.
Yeah, and that's care. That
care. To us exemplifies one of our core values. Absolutely.
Yeah, when businesses hire me to come in as a business coach to help develop the team, the two things that I key in on, what I call the low-hanging fruit, is care and recognition. And it is amazing to me the number of businesses that it's an easy win, and it costs the owner absolutely zero. There's no money invested. They may hire me to help them identify it, but for them to do it, to actually apply it, there's no cost to you. I mean, care is about a conversation. It's about empathy and being present.
Yep.
So talk a bit about, if you don't mind sharing, what a conversation would be like a one-on-one with leaders on how you help support them in showing care to the people that work under them.
Yeah, so a couple things. One, every week we do a leadership call. We do one for the general managers because that's their, and then we do one for the assistant managers. They have different days off. We have always management coverage. So Mondays and Wednesdays. The first thing we do, which we believe it's important that it is the first, is we do what's called highs, lows, and culture call out. Highs and lows are, we want to listen as a leadership team. What's going on in your life? Did you get in a car wreck? Did you graduate a kid from college or high school?
Yeah.
Did you, what are the big things that are impacting you personally or professionally? Because we actually care. We then celebrate, we'll be like, that's awesome. We'll be like, oh, that's really rough. I'm so sorry to hear that. But then we talk culture, and we really inspire, and our goal is to have them identify one individual on their team that exemplifies one of the core key 5 values. This is exactly what you were saying, costs you nothing, but it's public recognition. And then what I'm doing is I'm making notes on the back end. So when I go into those stores and I talk to, Macy, the prep cook, and I'm like, hey, Macy, you were called out on Biscuits in Business in front of all the leaders for your excellent whatever she did. You came in on your day off to support the line. What that does is it shows hey, first of all, we're listening as an organization. Second of all, that she's being recognized for the work that she does. We can't do this without individuals. And ultimately what it does is it actually helps her realize, because she's on, Macy specifically is on a management track. She's expressed interest in rising in the company. It's affirmative or it's positive affirmation that allows her to understand that the behaviors she's taking are leading in somewhere. Directly with management, some of the conversations we like to have is we have to give them tools. If you don't give them tools as management to kind of process this conversation, they get busy with the details. You understand this, being an entrepreneur yourself. Being in store, there's 1,000 things that are constantly pulling at you from every direction. So how do you maintain sanity and also direction to make sure that you're actually getting the important things done? You can break it into 4 quadrants of urgent, important, unurgent, not important. You can certainly break it out. It happens a lot faster than that. The amount of time that we have to sit and think is rare in the hospitality industry. So tools we've developed, one we love to talk about, it's called a scorecard. It's pretty simple. It's a 1 through 5 scale, and it's either position-based or it's management track scorecard. And what we do is we love to say, like, all right, so you're having a difficult conversation with employee X over here. Have you had an opportunity to bring them back to the standards of what they signed up for under our 5 core values? Yes, I've had that conversation. Okay, wonderful. What about their scorecard? Have you talked to them about the roles and responsibilities that they've said that they want to hold themselves to? How are they accomplishing it? And what are the specific, actionable, tangible ways that they can improve their skill set? And we rank them 1 through 5. 1 being major gaps, unable to complete the process. 5 being certified trainer. And we basically walk them through based on the level of which they're able to accomplish each one of their tasks and the knowledge. So 1 being major gaps, 2 start but not finish, 3 is able to start and stop, but kind of just follows the exact rhythm. It's like I'm reading a recipe and I'm singing a song, but I'm singing in
Right.
1 key, like no note changes. I'm reading the words monotone.
The way I sing.
Right, exactly. Me too. Right. That's why I'm not in the choir. Right. We're told to make a joyful noise. It's not sing harmony. But 4 is be able to adapt it to the skill adaptation. So in any business, there comes a certain point of mastery where you're like, okay, I know this is the process, but something changed and I need to adapt. Maybe the temperature in the building we're having an HVAC issue. So instead of being 71, my building temperature is 78. That's going to impact the dough temp. So now instead of having 7 minutes to have the dough on the board, now we only have 5 because the proofing activates twice, right? So the baking powder activates when it gets wet and it gets warm or hot, heats. So that prep cook needs to understand that there's adaptation. There's no control process in the world that can be like, bing, bing, bing. It's 78 degrees.
Yeah.
Sir cook, you need to reduce your board time for your biscuits to make that perfect biscuit. That's a level 4 person who can adapt that skill to the local need. And then a level 5 is able to reteach that same thought process. So giving your management tools is really important as leadership because it reduces chaos and it increases simplicity because what we say systems drive the shift.
Yeah. Thinking back to my early days in food service, it was about get it out the door, make it happen, get it out the door. And no matter how you got to make that happen, do it. Right. So that's food service, but that happens in all industries, right? That make it happen and make it happen now so we can move on to the next thing, whatever that is. But when you start living that life, which is easy to do for a lot of business owners, you're sacrificing a lot of what you just been talking about. You sacrifice accountability, you sacrifice compassion and care, you sacrifice all these other things. So the risk of doing that and disregarding the structure, right, it's a recipe for disaster, no pun intended, right?
Mm-hmm. Specifically, you're referring to the business owners, like how do you manage that balance?
Yeah.
You're right. If you don't build in certain margin into a business owner's life or into their schedule, you can certainly, I've seen a lot of peers that end up going down a road of implosion, but implosion happens in a lot of different ways. And, probably the most common ways is kind of this frantic clawing to try to keep their head above water. Mm-hmm. And what they don't realize is by not giving themselves mental space and to be able to actually think about the business or work on the business, they end up realizing that they're kind of running their business into the ground. Passionate leaders are often great entrepreneurs, but what makes a better entrepreneur is a gritty entrepreneur, somebody who is just simply willing to stand in there. Sometimes there have been days when I'm washing dishes and I try to be the most encouraging and uplifting dishwasher you can possibly imagine. Reminds me of a story last year. We had just opened up our new location, first one in Little Rock, and both the dishwashers called out. Busy Saturday. Line was cooking. They were in a flow. Front house was working as best they possibly could. Dishes were piling up, and yours truly stepped in the back and ended up washing dishes for 4 hours. And I think what was interesting about that process is not only was I able to see firsthand some of the issues we had with that dish pit that then got fixed in the next building we ran, but then the staff were able to see that this owner is not just one that stands there and wags a finger, but actually is willing to get in. But I'll tell you what the best thing is, as down to the grit factor, it's all right to get into the dish pit and actually get it done for a little bit. But if that becomes my home and I don't solve the key problem that's going on, this isn't going to bode well for the company. There's no way I can run 6 locations, 200 staff members and serve 10,000 guests from a dish pit in Little Rock. I have to get myself out of there, which means we had some very good conversations with the management team, and we came up with a plan. And I'll say that I never had to spend another day in that dish pit. But while I was there, we were getting the project done, and we were making it happen. That's one component. The other component, and we were talking about this briefly earlier around the community side of things. We have to, as leaders, I think, find ways that add value and life back into us. My wife and I are both religious. We believe, we attend a phenomenal church and view that as a high moral good, part of our human flourishing story. But we understand that's not for everyone, but everyone needs something that they can look to and pour time and energy into that's recharging and refilling for them, and understand, like, why am I working for this? So it's the idea of, like, being vision minded of, like, what is the purpose behind all of this effort? Like, we understand that it's serving guests and it's supplying jobs, but why this role? And how are we going to make a difference in our personal, like, what is our personal story?
Yeah. So let's pivot just a moment into the work that you're doing outside of, what you're using with Buttered Biscuit in order to serve the community. Let's talk a little bit about that, if you don't mind.
I'd love to. Yeah. So a couple things. We're really excited about this, and we've seen a huge need, and it really ties back into the hospitality industry. You mentioned earlier about just some of the ways that hospitality views people. And we really wanted to be different. We wanted to not only have great food, but we wanted to treat our people differently. The way we realized, and it's a sad reality, that there's what I would consider a group of underestimateds. And the underestimateds come from a variety of different backgrounds and categories. And this isn't me. This is my wife's story as well. What I mean, how we define an underestimated is they could be a minority. They could be undereducated, prior incarcerated. They could have learning challenges. They could be single parents, where they're trying to balance children and being the sole income provider for their home. A lot of these individuals are kind of looked down upon by society, and maybe either society's looked down on them, or they look down on themselves. And it's actually a personal invalidating what they're doing. So my wife, she actually never graduated high school. She got her GED. She came from a family of 9, large family. Her education process was non-traditional. And I think for years, what she had been told was that she couldn't achieve something because she didn't have a formal education. Mm-hmm. I think that, first of all, you see the success of what she's been able to do. It's just ridiculous. I mean, because that's not how the world works. Like, yes, there are certainly doors that can open for you with certain levels of education and training and technical knowledge. I'm not going to deny and say education's not important. I think it's highly important, but it's the right education. But undereducated is a huge, a component. So what we did early on in hiring practices is we never put a criteria for, certain, prior education certificates. We valued skill. We valued ability. We wanted to be a meritocracy of again, are you going to hold to these 5 core values of our business? But recently we had a fun time launching our own charitable cause, which is Project Biscuit. And this is a specific avenue that we've decided. We worked with Arkansas Community Foundation, which is an amazing organization that helps us then distribute money out to 501c3s and all over the state. We've worked with several. We do education. So we work with UA Pulaski Tech out of in their technical culinary school to provide scholarships to minorities. We work with Circles NWA, which is a kind of fighting poverty, education, and accountability organization. Again, saying like, look, we want to give people hand-ups. We want them to fulfill their dream, be masterfully excellent at what they want to do, and ultimately achieve their success that they want to have in their own life. Project Biscuit for us is such a unique way to kind of engage our guests. I mentioned 10,000 guests a week. And then raise funds and then donate back to the community. 100% of the proceeds raised go back into the community, and specific ways to help alleviate this sense of underestimated. We want to give people vision for where they can actually go. And we want to partner with organizations that are doing the good work every single day.
Yeah. So in that story, I hear a couple of things that you're looking for people that maybe don't know what they don't know, right? So in the 4 stages of learning, they don't know what they don't know, but they have an attitude that they want to do better. They want to get somewhere. They just don't know how to get out of the rut that they're in. And this is a program that helps connect that.
So this is, it's a fundraising arm.
Yeah.
That allows for us to say, all right, let's raise funds. So the Eureka Biscuit is one of our most popular biscuit sandwiches. We donate $1 of every single Eureka Biscuit to Project Biscuit. We're really excited to do so. We do a May of Giving, or May We Give, right? Is the slogan use, right? And we had table tents. We were selling T-shirts with a super cute little Project Biscuit man out there to do good in the world. And what we use the opportunity of Project Biscuit to do is to talk about this disadvantaged, underestimated class that, so much of personal success comes from confidence. When you lack that confidence and you either believe in your own heart that you're not worth as much, or somebody else has told you that, which is even harder to stomach, often you don't achieve much. But when you have somebody who comes alongside you and says, hey, look, let's deal with the consequences of your past decisions, but let's look towards the future. That's a powerful statement when you're sitting down with people and saying, hey, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And then you hear a heartbreaking story of trauma, abuse, neglect, addiction, incarceration, undereducation, kind of a choiceful kind of, I wouldn't say dehumanizing, but just, devaluing who they are, and in our perspective, which is we're all created in the image of God. So when you look at employees and you say, hey, look, you have purpose, meaning, and worth, where do you want to go? I want to help you get there. It's not common to have that conversation. It's not common that they've heard an employer have that conversation with them.
Yeah, part of what I do is assessments, and my favorite tool for leaders or for some organizations is emotional intelligence, EQ assessments. And I've had 3 people in the last year that scored 97 or higher on their EQ. And all 3 of those people had this traumatic story that they were one of 15 kids and they were the one that had to be the parent, or they were abused in some way, right? Emotionally, usually it was emotionally. And those people become so highly self-aware, so socially aware of everything, and recognizing how to use all of this and to control those emotions. Once those people are uncovered in an organization and you give them that opportunity, which is what you're talking about here, right? It's almost magical. It's just to sit back and watch is amazing. And that's what you're talking about, is just giving them an ounce of opportunity and the support, which is what you're talking about with your core values of care.
Yeah. Yeah, it's difficult to have hard conversations, but ultimately today's compromise sets tomorrow's standard. And if I'm not willing to have a hard conversation to hold you to the agreement that you wanted to sign up for, this is a voluntary employment. Like, you are welcome to take your skills elsewhere. But you sat across from me at some point and told me you wanted to uphold these 5 core values. We agreed that these are the 5 core values. And now if you've come off that standard, then it's my job to help hold you accountable to the goals and metrics that you've set out for yourself. We've had some amazing success stories of people who've come through our organization. One of them actually, coincidentally texted me today. Her daughter worked for us. She came to us straight out of a halfway home. She had just gotten out of prison. She came to us as a line cook, and she just, for the first 2 years, just kind of kept her head down, just did her thing. as she got healthier and she got consistently, we had some hard conversations early on about attendance and about, attitude online. She took it to heart though. She went from line cook to kitchen supervisor to an assistant manager, and then ran a store for 3 years for us. Later, and this was, sweet and sour all at the same time. She decided to move along to a manufacturing role to a company here in town. And we celebrated her continued progression. She just came back today and she's like, Sam, I don't know if you understand the direction of trajectory change that your company had on me and my family, because I knew I could do it, but I never had an employer who believed that I could do it.
Wow.
And that combination of personal determination, they're doing the work, Ellen. They're the ones showing up every day at 5:30. They're the ones that are standing at the hot griddle. They're the ones serving hangry guests. They're doing the hard work. I can't take credit for them. I'm simply working to give a consistent environment that holds them accountable to not my standards, but their standards. That's the powerful combination of when you say, look, we want human flourishing. I want you personally to take charge of your own path, and I'm going to empower the heck out of you to do it.
Yeah. We talk about, this is TrustBuilt Podcast, and we talk about trust, and people toss it around like it's a commodity sometimes. But when you apply it, especially in a leadership way, and I'm not talking about you specifically in leadership, but as an organization, and you empower those people to live that life, and they understand that accountability is not a negative thing. It's empowering. It's incredibly empowering, and it gives purpose. So that's one thing we didn't touch on that word, but we've danced all around it. We have danced all around that word, but that, and it's, and I'm going to ask you to be a little bit vulnerable here, but that is not easy, or everybody be doing it, right? So if there's somebody out there that's listening and watching, and they're like, yeah, that sounds great, but that's not my world, what would you say to that person?
So I start with the small things. Personal accountability is a really important fact. Long-term relationships and friends that actually are inspiring you to achieve. Dream a little bit about where you want to see yourself in 5 years or 10 years. I often like to say, and this is not me, I can't take credit for it, but people overestimate what they can do in a year and they underestimate what they can do in 10 years. But how do you underestimate what you can do in 10 years? You didn't dream big enough. You didn't think about the steps, and then you break it down from a 10-year goal to a 5-year goal to a 3-year goal to a 1-year goal. Personal accountability matters. Surrounding yourself with great people matter. But then simply not being, it goes back to the grit factor. You just don't give up. And, if you're in an environment where you are, say, for example, you're not in a leadership position or you're aspiring to a leadership position, take command and control over what you have responsibility for. Manage the small things well, and you'll have opportunities to manage larger things, or you'll move to an organization that values you to move, and to take accountability. Never settle for good. Always pursue mastery, or always pursue excellence. Because I could become a masterful biscuit manufacturer today, and then tomorrow opportunity knocks and I take those same skills. I like to think when I was at my old job for 11 years, I got moved 7 times all over the country. I went through sales, corporate strategy, branding. I ran a team of brand specialists. I had many opportunities to engage with customers, but I wanted to be excellent at every single thing I did. So I learned Excel, and I learned how to make a sales presentation. I learned how to build a brand deck. I learned how to listen to feedback of consumers. It wasn't glamorous and it wasn't fun, but find the small ways that you are in your current job and make a difference and be excellent at it, because you never know where those skill sets will lead to. Because my background of Excel management now becomes highly valuable in managing my business today in understanding Excel. I'm probably the best Excel person in my entire company. And I hate to say it because I wish my managers were better, but they came out of hospitality. I came out of corporate.
Right.
When it comes to branding, I can talk with agencies with ease. I can talk about our website development, our branding, our colors, how the brand design and architecture is fitting together because I applied myself at my prior, in my prior life and desire to be excellent at it. So it doesn't matter what level you're at, Ellen. Like, I think there's opportunity for everyone to take control of what they're doing, and to start building repetition, because the other component about being excellent and having purpose where you're at is you build self-confidence. And that self-confidence leads to future opportunity, because more confident people often attract more confident people that are also doing something. Confidence is different than arrogance. Arrogance, and I do want to make a distinction, confidence breeds from excellence. It breeds from a fact of, hey, look, I have nothing to prove. I know I'm really ridiculously good at this one crazy random skill, and I don't have anything to prove or be showing. Cockiness, or some of these other, it almost comes with an overconfidence or a kind of a self, I would say, kind of an overinflated view of self, and you're trying to get people to think of you in a different way. And we can look around in examples of that where people are, maybe use the term compensating for other things that they probably view in themselves, rather than just saying, look, we want to be healthy. We want to understand that we're very good at these things. And it's okay if I'm not the best basketball player in town. There's no pretending I'm not tall enough, and never was. I tried. There was about 3 years. I tried very hard, but never could cut it.
Yeah. Hearing that, what you just said, what I heard was doing the things to build confidence in yourself, to trust yourself, right? It's about self-assessment of where you need to be. And I heard a story of consistency in what you just said. Do the things, start making the wins, and do them consistently so that you believe in yourself. That's kind of the story that I heard. I don't know if that was intentional.
No, it absolutely is.
That's what I was hearing.
Yeah, because when you end up looking at yourself in the mirror and you know that the small decisions you're making are adding up, it builds confidence.
Yeah. So if you could pick one thing, and this is, I'm getting off on a tangent. What do you think?
Oh boy, here we go. We haven't eaten the biscuits and jams yet. Come on, Alan. Killing me.
What would be the one thing, most underrated leadership skill that's out there? What would you think? Just your opinion. Is that a curveball? It wasn't intentional. Underrated leadership.
I know this is going to sound weird, but it's actually probably listening. Because in people leadership, you're dealing with people. They all have stories, and we are in a world that is always talking. But when you sit back and listen, it ends up changing the dynamic. Because as a leader, your job and accountability is to make the best decision, not for you, but for the people you lead. How can the heck you make a good decision if you don't know who you're leading and how you make them flourish and thrive? So I think listening is probably one of the most undervalued leadership skills. There's a lot that I could talk about: speed of execution, setting clear visions, communicating regularly, not being, being consistent and very culture driven. So setting a standard, holding the standard. But ultimately, you have to understand, if you're listening to people, you can hear that they're not getting your message. And instead of just talking at them, you can pivot and you can decide, all right, they're not picking up on it. I need them to. I'm listening. Let's go back and try a different angle. And it's often not talked about.
Yeah. What I run into a lot of times is people don't understand that it's a skill. Listening is a skill, and it needs to be a habit. So that means you have to practice it consistently in order for it to be a viable thing, right? So I absolutely agree. My wife, I hope she's not watching. I do listen, just sometimes not to her. I know she says words, but that's not the listening you're talking about. You're talking about being present, right? There's active listening and being present. Being present with somebody, people know that. They can feel it.
Yeah, we've had several situations, and I think we just recently had a manager who, again, is off to bigger and different things, submitted his resignation. It's gave us 2-week notice, high five him out the door. The most important thing I could do is I went in to that store, ordered lunch, sat down, talked with the team for an hour and a half about nothing and everything, listened to them.
Yeah.
And I think simply being present with that team creates a sense of stability, and it creates a sense of, hey, look, we don't know who's going to leave the store, who's going to get promoted, who's going to get turned over, but we know that they're with us. Sam is with us. The leadership team is with us through this process. So presence is very important within a leadership team, and frankly, in the hospitality world, is critical.
Yeah. All right, one more question. I promise this is it. A book you would recommend?
Man, I am all over on books. Yeah. I like to do everything from, military strategy. I'm a huge military strategy guy. I enjoy listening to when leadership has death consequences, there's a different style of weight and gravity. If I lead poorly, you guys just don't get great biscuits. I'm sorry. They might not be good, and I apologize, but I'll give you your money back. Please come back tomorrow. But when leadership and military strategy, when people have poor leadership, people die. And that's been one thing. Some of Jocko Willick's books are fantastic. I'm a huge fan of some of the early leadership books. So like How to Win Friends and Influence People is a really good one. I really like a book by an author, Robert Pink, which is called Drive. It's all about motivating and how do you consistently motivate. We've got 4 kids, love them all, and we're actually expecting our 5th, which is super exciting.
Hey, congratulations.
But we found some really good books for leadership of families. And one is called Habits of the Household. And I've been a huge fan of how do you set the consistent habits of the household that ultimately shape culture. And there's a lot of crossover between households and business because, you're running this little microcosm of what you want in a business. The same lessons that I'm giving to my 4-year-old are the same lessons that I have to then communicate to the leadership of a store. Yeah. They just might have different words that they're expressing. My 4-year-old collapses in a corner with a tantrum when she doesn't get to eat candy before dinner. My manager, on the other hand, might respond differently. I hope they do. But the message is still the same. Like, we need to do the hard work before we can get the reap the benefits. Habits of the Household has been a really fantastic book. It's a kind of a textbook style, but anybody that's looking for a great kind of household management, like how do you set culture of a home, I'd highly recommend it.
Okay. Interrogation's over. I promise.
Go for it. I was like, when do we get these biscuits here? I've got some great food we brought in.
Yeah. So you got how many locations now?
So we've got 6.
6.
Really excited to see. The first 4 were built with blood, sweat, and tears. And, I kind of GC'd them, and my wife designed them, and we made some mistakes, a lot of mistakes. But, we got the doors open. If we want to go back, I did a podcast with... it was a NWA kind of leaders, founders podcast. Yeah. And it was a fantastic opportunity to kind of talk through some of the details of how we grew, what the pacing was, and some of the struggles and trials. One of the things is that at the beginning, there is a VIP, or kind of or MVP, kind of minimal viable product that you want to ultimately launch with a business to say, is this going to work? But our MVP we went all in. I didn't have any other chips. We had to take the shot and had to land. The location 2, location 3, location 4 were very similar. Fortunately, with those 4, they've worked well. We managed them very consistently, and that allowed us enough capital and the ability to hire really good professional architects, designers to then put together a prototype design for us. We opened those 2 stores in Little Rock last year. And we're really excited with how they're doing. Still some tweaks to be made, but much more consistent with where we want to go with kind of a national expansion.
Yeah. I'll share my quick story about how I came across Buttered Biscuit. I do CrossFit. I'm a CrossFit coach, and went to CrossFit Commence whenever I'm up here. Yeah. And the 1 month I came in, I'm like, there's a biscuit store right next to a CrossFit gym. This is so awesome.
Yes. And you don't have to feel bad about eating. Like, our scrambles are 4 egg scrambles. We use eggs out of Berryville. It's a Mennonite farm. We use real cheese. I say real because we shred it in house. Like, we don't use fake fillers in it. Real vegetables. So it's like, if you want a protein dump, get our scrambles. Like, they're massive portion. You can get a fruit cup instead of a biscuit, or indulge in a 6-ingredient, real ingredient biscuit. To give you that enough carb load to keep you from going crazy.
Yeah, right.
And get the carb crazies, right? Is what they call it. But yeah, we've really, fitness is important, but what we realize is it's not just calorie counting, but it's the quality of the calories that you put in your body. So we actually, we pay a lot for real butter. We use real butter in a lot of different aspects. As we look at some of the food that's here on the table today, it's all made with real ingredients. So, our raspberry and our strawberry jams, it's 3 simple ingredients. It's just berries, sugar, and lemon. Like, it's nothing. There's no added flavors. We don't add added pectin to gelatinize it. We allow the natural pectin of the seeds to actually create the thickening element. The butters, it's a real butter. It's not a butter blend. There's no seed oils in it. The honey is the honey butter that we put into our butter mixes actually come out of Fort Smith, so the River Valley area. And it's been really fun to then source real food, put it in the stores. People taste the difference. They know the difference, and they experience that their satiety levels increases. They're not hungry. Talk about our gravy for a second. I didn't bring any here because I want to make sure I got you safe, hot food. But our gravy is a real Southern roux. We don't start with a roux base that comes from a major national distributor. And to us, again, it's not about the calories you consume. It's quality of the calories you consume. And we want to be high quality calories, high quality food that allows you to feel full and not, and excited about the food and the company that you're supporting.
Yeah. That's a whole nother conversation to go down the nutrition path. And, some people don't see food as fuel, and it is fuel. It is pleasurable to eat that. I won't lie to you. It's fantastic taste, but food is fuel, and what kind of fuel are you putting in the tank? It matters.
It does. It does. I could probably change it up, change the octane a little bit myself here.
Well, this has been a fantastic conversation, and hearing the journey, and whether you start out at the very beginning with a focus on building a community like you have, it's not hard if you're not there. It's not that hard. The mindset is hard, but to do what you're talking about is actually very simple, but can be challenging to move into what you're what you're doing if they aren't doing that, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think, today's compromise sets tomorrow's standards. I think you can set the standard, you can set the culture, but you have to hold the culture. That's what that means. So I can say, hey, you have your 5 core values, or we have what we call the core 4, which is, it's a dedicated, genuine smile, create eye contact, speak warmly with care, and connect with your guests to meet their needs. We can talk about that, but if my managers aren't in store holding that accountable, well, then the staff just start slipping. They start walking around with frowns on their faces. They start avoiding the guests when they're trying to get eye contact. Like, I just need a water over here. Like, not a big deal. But it goes back to that sense of care and love and concern for others' well-being, because ultimately that's what people come to Buttered Biscuit for. They want to come for great food and real life connection. And we want to build communities, all the way back to my wife's vision of how do we create an environment that solves a need at the local community level that delivers great food with unbelievable hospitality. And we actually want to see the people that are coming in the door. It's a real privilege to have that opportunity for thousands of people a week. Yeah.
So the locations are at Springdale. Where are the different locations if they want to go to Buttered Biscuit? Yeah.
So we've got 4 in Northwest Arkansas, 2 in Bentonville, 1 in Springdale, 1 in Fayetteville, and they all have different charms, and it's really fun. They're all in unique locations. In Little Rock, we have 1 in West Little Rock, which is in the Promenade Height, or in the Promenade on Chenal, which is some of our neighbors are Apple, Lululemon, Sephora. It's right in that lifestyle center. And then our newest location is in the Heights. It's right on Kavanaugh. It's got a beautiful kind of 100-year-old building. Again, going back to the underestimated.
Right.
We took an underestimated building and really breathed new life back into it. And it's just been an unbelievable expression. But you can also, what we have here today is our biscuits and jams. We can cater everything from a small house party. Our catering is set up to serve 8 to 12 people, depending on your appetite. And it works awesome for pickup little house caterings, whether or not you're having another family over. My wife and I just did that. We had some friends from out of town. They had 6 or 5 kids. We have 4 kids. There was whatever, a billion of us at the house. Instead of going to the restaurants, I just picked up some gravy, some biscuits, some eggs, some bacon, and just brought it home. It worked out perfect. Catering is a great way to utilize the Buttered Biscuit, and you don't have to fight sometimes with the weekend rush and crowds. And it's easy. It's really easy. So. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show. This has been fantastic, and I look forward to a biscuit.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. But thank you so much.
You bet. Thanks.